Good morning and good Hakodesh. Welcome to the Daily Tanya. Today is Tuesday, the first day of Rosh Chodesh Elul. Is the 30th day of Menachem. Let's begin with Tzedakah, Gedola, Tzedakah, Shemekarev Zesageula. Tzedakah brings Mashiach. Let us hope we should get Mashiach now. And now starting this beautiful month of Elul, month of compassion, mercies from Hashem. God reveals Himself to us. We should all have a ksiva v'chasima teva, a good gebenchte year. So today we begin letter 10 in Igeret Hakodesh. This letter is again about tzedakah, telling us about there is two types of giving. There is limited giving and there is unlimited giving. The Alter Rebbe will explain why and when we need both. And the Alter Rebbe talks about, he begins by explaining a verse, as we'll soon see, the kindness of Hashem. There's two levels of kindness of Hashem. And sometimes we need to evoke the higher level of kindness of Hashem. And to explain, the Rebbe begins by talking about the Torah, whether the Torah is something which is considered a kindness, side of something of abundance giving of Hashem, or is it considered an attribute of Gevura, the attribute of restriction? And we'll explain why we need the boundaries in the Torah. We need boundaries in order to be able to receive something that should not overwhelm you. Sometimes you need boundaries. And that is the restrictions in the Torah itself. For example, when you're using analogy in life, when you have a relationship with your spouse, sometimes you wish to express everything you feel and to be constantly with your spouse, but if you're going to be too overwhelming, it may not be received properly. Sometimes you need to concentrate and to put boundaries and to direct your relationship in a way that the recipient can receive it. The same thing is when you teach a child. Sometimes you have such deep understandings in a certain concept, and you see the child doing something, you want to explain the child, you're going to give everything without boundaries, without limiting what you're saying. It's just going to overwhelm, and the child is not going to receive it properly. He's going to get lost. And the same thing is also with the mitzvahs that Hashem gave to us. So let's see how the Alter Rebbe explains this inside. The Alter Rebbe begins this letter, again, as we mentioned a number of times, the Alter Rebbe would collect money from his communities, going back over 200 years, to help the people in Israel that were very poor, and the communities that he collected from were also poor people. And the Alter Rebbe explained to them the beauty and the importance of this mitzvah of giving tzedakah. The Rebbe begins, Achadrishas Shloima V'chaim, after greeting of life and peace. Pesach Dvorai Yoyer Oizen Shamas Tichachas Chaim. May my opening words rouse the ear that hears the life-giving admonition. Asher Echiach Hashem Chaim Al Yidei Neviyei. That the living God admonished through his prophet, and saying, the kindness of God have surely not ended. So this is a verse from Lamentation, said by the prophet Jeremiah. Simply understanding this verse, it means God's kindness have not ended. And the question, however, here, if you understand Hebrew, the words is a little strange. When it says Chasdi Hashem, the kindness of Hashem, Kilo Samnu, the word Tamnu means we have not ended. So he's saying there's the kindness of Hashem, we have not ended, or Tamnu can also mean we are not perfect. Tam means end, Tam means perfect. If you want to say God's kindness have not ended, you would say Chasdei Hashem Kilo Tamu. God's kindness have not ended, and that's exactly the question that the Rebbe is asking. It says Kiloi Samu. Now it should really have said Kilo Tamu. The Rebbe brings an example that during davening we also say Chasdei Hashem Atov Kilei Chalu Kilei Samu Amarachem Kilei Samu Chasadecha, which means as in the phrase, for your kindness have not ended. So we see here using the word tamu, not tamnu. Tamnu means we have not ended. To understand this, the Alter Rebbe is going to explain about what we said before, the two types of kindness, two types of giving, the two types of kindness of Hashem. There is the kindness of the world, the limited kindness, and there is kindness of Hashem, the higher kindness, which is the unlimited kindness. And later on, the Alter Rebbe will explain that the fact that we are not complete, that is why we need to reach the level of the unlimited kindness. Hakodesh is chesed v'is chesed. This anomaly will be understood in the light of a statement in the sacred Zohar that says there are two different types of chesed, two different types of kindness. Is chesed olam v'chulu. There is chesed olam, literally a world-like chesed, a degree of kindness which is limited by temporal bounds. Ve'is chesed ilod u rav chesed chulu. And there is a superior form of kindness, meaning rav chesed, boundless kindness. So this will be explained later. To understand this, the Alter Rebbe begins by explaining something about the Torah. What is the Torah? The Torah is called strength, and the Torah is called kindness. Because what is the Torah really? When we study Torah, Torah is not just a book of instructions or a book of history. The Torah is really God giving Himself to us. God has created a physical, limited world. When He created us in physical bodies, limited understanding, and limited bodies. And then Hashem wanted to introduce Himself to us, the endless essence of God, introduced in the Torah. However, in order to give it to us so that we should not be overwhelmed, He placed the limitations in the Torah so that we can get it in limited form, and yet in that limited form we connect with the endless essence of Hashem. Kihine, says the Alter Rebbe. Now it is well known that the Torah is called Oz. Oz means strength. Thus in the verse, God grants strength to His people, the Gemara in Tractate Zvachim comments, strength alludes to the Torah. Shu Loshen Gevura, which is an expression of Gevura. So literally Gevura means might, but more specifically, as the name of one of the Sephiros, it signifies, in contradistinction to Chesed, the withholding of beneficence as regulated by the divine attribute of stern justice. So the Gevura is about constricting, concealing, contracting, and limiting the amount of light that comes, the amount of energy that comes. Where do we find that the Torah is considered the restrictive power? It says the Alter Rebbe brings an example. As our sages of blessed memory taught, that the 613 commandments were declared unto Moses at Sinai from the mouth of Gevurah. Here Hashem is referred to as Gevurah, restricted, the attribute of restriction. And here the Alter brings another pasuk, another verse in the Torah. And in this verse, you see both aspects of the Torah simultaneously. The aspect of the kindness and the aspect of the restriction. It is likewise written, from his right hand a Torah of fire was given unto them. Meaning, it was written in fire, which is an expression of the attribute of Gevurah. Now, the right side, if you listen to the Tanya classes, if you know the Kabbalah a little bit, you know that the right always represents the giving, the chesed, the kindness. The fire represents the Gevurah, the restriction. And here the Torah says, from his right hand, the Torah of fire was given. That means that it has both. And Alter Rebbe explains this. Pirush. שהתורה מקורה ושורשו הוא רק חסדי השם המכונים בשם ימין. The source and root of the Torah is solely God's kindness, that are referred to as the right side. Hainu hamshochas b'chinas elikusa yisborach v'ora me'oyer ein sof baruch hu elo oilemes elyonim v'sachtonim. That is the elicitation of his divinity and of radiance from the infinite Ein Sof light to the upper and lower worlds. So this is the Torah. The Torah is about giving his light, the energy, the kindness of Hashem to the higher worlds, to the lower worlds. How do we connect to this light? How do we draw this light upon ourselves? This is through doing the Torah, the mitzvahs, fulfilling the mitzvahs and studying the Torah. This is affected by man who draws down the light upon himself. By the fulfillment of the 248 positive commandments, shehein ramach evorim b'malka, which are the 248 organs of the king. So just like an organ draws the power of the soul and brings it out. So for example, if you have a talent of drawing, you're a painter, you're an artist, then you have that power inside you. The organ, the hand, draws that power, that ability, that potential, brings it out. You have an eye, you have the power of seeing. The eye draws the power of sight. And the same thing with every organ. So the power is there. You just need to bring it out. And the same thing is the Torah. The Torah Hashem gives himself through the Torah. And when we do the mitzvahs, which is God's commandments, they draw this godly light upon us. Pirush, meaning they are the 248 vessels and garments for the radiance from the infinite Ein Sof light that is vested in them. And in parentheses, the Alter Rebbe says that when fulfilling the mitzvahs brings us light and brings us in every mitzvah the feeling of fear and love of Hashem. And as is known from this light, awe and love are drawn down upon a person as he performs each commandment. So the Torah and its commandments are thus a downflow of godliness, springing from his attributes of kindness. However, this kindness of Hashem is unlimited, and in order to draw this kindness without being overwhelmed by the powerful light, it needed to be contracted, and therefore it was clothed, so to speak, within the attribute of Gevura, the contraction, the restriction of Hashem. However, this downflow was first vested in God's attribute of Gevura, which is referred to as fire, and which reflects a contraction, a tzimtzum, of the light and life force that issue from the infinite Ein Sof light, thus enabling it to become vested in the performance of the commandments. And that is why it is contracted. If you see the commandments, all the commandments are in physical things, very limited. Practically all of which involve material things. The vast majority of them is immaterial things. For example, ketzitzis, tefillin, vekarbonos, tzedakah, such as tzitzis, which are made of wool, tefillin, made of leather and parchment, sacrifices offered from animals, plants, and minerals, and charity that involves money or other material objects. And even though there are certain mitzvahs that are not with physical objects, for example, mitzvah like loving Hashem, to fear Hashem, it's more of emotional mitzvahs, yet they're also limited, because we cannot have the true love to Hashem, the true overwhelming, powerful love. We cannot contain it within us. If we would, we wouldn't be here. As the Alter Rebbe says, an example, what happened when God gave the Torah, we were overwhelmed with love to Hashem, and that's why the Jewish people, their soul departed the bodies. So even those mitzvahs that are not with physical objects, yet they also have their limitations. Even commandments that involve a man's spirit, such as awe and love of God, they are also of limited measure and by no means of infinite extent. For not even for a moment could a man sustain in his heart so intense a love of God as is without end and limitation, and still remain in existence in his body. That's impossible. Indeed, so intense a love would truly cause the soul to take flight. So it was taught by our sages of blessed memory that at the time of the giving of the Torah, when God's divinity and the infinite Ein Sof light were manifest to the Jews at Sinai, at the direct level of revealed speech, their soul took flight from their bodies. God had to revive them afterwards. And that is why we see the mitzvahs are such of limited forms. That limits the light, and that's how we are able to connect and get in touch with the infinite light in a limited form. And that explains also why the laws of the Torah, the restrictions of the Torah. We keep Shabbat. If you don't understand what it's all about, as Shabbos looks very restrictive and limiting. But when you learn what we just learned, we understand that those limitations, those restrictions are actually liberating us, allowing us to connect through these limitations, to connect to Hashem, to the very essence of Hashem, to the light of Hashem, every time we do a mitzvah. So this is the end of today's shir. Wishing you all a good Hakodesh and a ksiva v'chasima teva. We'll see you tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem.